So welcome to the podcast, Mark.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. When I realized that you had a podcast, I thought that was first awesome, and second, I was like, how do I get on?
Oh, awesome. So Mark and I actually kind of know each other. Well, don't know each other, but I know his brother. So people who have been listening to this podcast know that my background is in architecture.
Uh-huh.
I was working in New York City for years as an architect. I moved here, and my cousin was working with your brother.
Yeah,
And you kind of remember this, right? Because we met
yeah,
like when I was doing the ABORM exam.
correct.
So what's interesting is that when I was doing the fertility, so I came here and actually my cousin wanted me to work with your brother because he worked with your brother. And he's like,
Hmm.
he's an architect. Why don't he was very resistant to me changing my career because he's an engineer. So he introduced me to your brother, and we even spoke about possibly working together. And then I was like, nah, I want to go back to school and learn natural medicine. And really nice guy. And then years later, I needed to do some work on my house, and I drew up some plans, but of course I don't have a license. So I reached out to your brother. So your brother and I have had a really nice like friendship, and have been in each other's lives for different reasons professionally. And so what's interesting is that I started really getting into fertility, and I watched your shows,
Uh-huh.
Fertility TV, which I love, which is not just great for people trying to get pregnant, but it's great for professionals as well.
Oh,
I
that's
found it
great.
to be a
I
great
never even think of
resource.
that. But yeah, that's great.
I know most of us don't. I've actually had professionals reach out to me saying the same thing, and I was like, really? But it's yeah, no, for me it was great because I learned so much when I was like really starting to get into it. So what's funny is I was like, oh, Sklar. I'm like, that looks familiar, but I'm like, nah, can't be, like, there's no relation, can't be. so so then I take the ABORM exam, I go to LA and I see you, and then you're like looking at my license, you're like, Miami Beach, I'm from there. So I go to sit back down and I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, I should just ask. I'm like, who knows? Turns out it's your brother.
Yeah, yeah. That's great.
Yeah, so
Small world, right?
totally small world. Yeah, totally. So I know you're obviously an expert in both fertility, male and female. We're going to be talking about male just because I feel like it doesn't get as much attention these days. So I wanted to just, for anybody who's never heard of you, can you give us a story of your background, how you got into fertility and Chinese medicine?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, First, I should say I can't believe someone hasn't heard of me. No, I'm just joking. Um,
You know what? That might be true.
Um, no, for those who don't know me well, I am a doctor of acupuncture and Chinese medicine. I specialize in natural fertility, and I have a YouTube channel called Fertility TV, like Michelle mentioned. And I really pride myself on working with couples to support them on their journey, wherever they are. My goal is to really meet couples, meet patients, where they are in their journey, and hopefully push them to a bigger and better. Um, Often patients are coming, and couples are looking for support. They're confused. They don't know exactly what they're looking for. Should I do IVF? Should I try naturally? We've been trying for a long time. We've been trying for just 6 months. What do we do? How do we approach it? And so it's really, I think, it's really important to be able to listen to where couples are, where they've been, um, and then have a good understanding of a timeline and prognosis for how they need to move forward. Because everyone's on, essentially, I always think that everyone's on a time crunch when they
Mhm.
when they come and reach out to me, because it's usually not that they've reached out like, oh, we're thinking of starting to have a family in six
Yeah.
months. Usually, like, we've been trying for 5 years and nothing's worked. What do we do? And so when someone approaches in that regard, time is of the essence. Not always because of physical needs or age, but more so because of the mental side of things.
Mhm.
You've been trying to achieve something for 5 years. Like, at some point you start to burn out, and you've got to move forward. So for me, it's really important to meet meet patients, meet couples that I'm coaching and working with in that way, and be able to guide them. But I'm also, it's really important to me not to just say, well, they said they want to do IVF, so let's just do IVF. I'm going to tell you what I think, how you can achieve it, and where you can go. And a lot of that really stems from where I started on my process and in my journey. I got into natural healthcare because my own health issues, my own digestive issues, which I had struggled with for quite some time, I think since I was like 11 or 12, possibly even before, but my memory doesn't bring me back that far. And really the only thing that really turned the corner for me was, or I should say, started to turn the corner for me was acupuncture and Chinese medicine when I was 21. And that really pushed me and propelled me forward in natural healthcare. I mean, I always had a preference for doing things naturally, but I didn't really know what that meant when I was young and, naive and immature. So, so that pushed me forward. And my second acupuncturist, I think she still practices in Miami Beach, and someone I still think of very fondly. When I graduated from undergraduate, I didn't know what I was going to do because I had started I started my degree as pre-med, but then switched because I had all sorts of other passions. And she was the one who kind of brought me back full circle and said, well, why don't you check out Chinese medicine school and see what you can do? And so she's the one who pushed me into Chinese medicine. And when I moved to California to go to school, just a series of events that really led me down the path of women's health and fertility. It's not that it never interested me. I didn't know what I wanted to do with the profession at that time. And so several mentors that I love and cherish today really kind of pushed me forward in that area. And then when I was in the school clinic, seeing my own patients for the first time, really all the patients that came were all women looking for women's health issues. So some of it was very organic and natural, and some of it was me listening to what the world was telling me and what, the direction I needed to go. But, nothing's going to replace the feeling that I had when I helped my first woman get pregnant, and she came in with PCOS. 5 months later, she was pregnant. I helped her with another child as well. And that really set the trajectory for me moving forward. I was like, this is exactly what I want to do. When you can have that sort of a profound effect on someone's life, and their family tree, it's profound and it's special. And so it means a lot to me. And that's really what kind of set me forward.
Yeah, I without a doubt agree with you 100%. The satisfaction that you get when you see that positive pregnancy test and just the face of your patient after years of being told that they can't get pregnant on their own, kind of it defies the odds of what their logic was, going. So that's another thing I was going to mention. You mentioned meeting couples where they are, and a lot of times couples come back with such hopelessness because they're being told news that they can't do things on their own, and we as Chinese medicine practitioners know that that's not true.
Yeah. This to me is two sides of the same coin. If you take a quarter and you have a natural fertility expert looking always at heads, and you have a conventional fertility specialist, IVF doctor, always looking at tails, it's not that either one is necessarily wrong. It's that they can't necessarily see, they're not flipping the coin to see the other side, right? To get an understanding that there are other perspectives. And I would actually say that it's really not a two-sided coin. I would say, it's probably something that's more circular. And which side do you want to be on, or how do you want to rotate that at different times of your process to incorporate potentially all of those things into your fertility journey? So it's it's less about one being right or wrong and more about finding the perspective that resonates with you best, and then being able to incorporate that into your process. Now, you might find that they all resonate with you for different reasons and at different times, and that's also okay. I hate to see that someone gets stuck on one side because the person in the white coat on the other side of the desk said, you can't, donor,
Mhm.
donor, donor. And I'm not saying that they're inaccurate or wrong. I'm just saying I do believe that that's just one perspective. And from 17 to 18 years of work in this field, and seeing so many couples who've been told no, 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 end up with yes, 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 yes.
Mhm.
I have a hard time believing or buying into that thought.
Absolutely. And nobody knows everything. Even you don't, I don't, people with like 50 years of experience don't know everything. And I think really that's what it comes down to, is that to say something definitive, that this is how your future is going to look, is
Yeah,
just, it's irresponsible. I don't think that it's done with bad intention. I think it's just that that's the perspective. So I always like to really inform either my patients, even the listeners, to listen to your gut and get multiple opinions. It's
yeah,
really important.
absolutely. It's really important that we listen to our gut. I have a couple that I'm working with, and she just messaged me to let me know that she's pregnant, and she was told she has seen 3 different REIs, and she was told by the first 2 that this is not, it's not going to happen for you. You need donor, so on and so forth. And I just had to tell her, I'm like, I just don't believe it to be true. I'm not saying that that might not be the case in the end. I just don't think it's true for you right now, because I don't think we have the right answers for you. And sure enough, she's pregnant, and she can't believe it. This is the first time she's ever been pregnant, and her journey's been long and difficult and challenging, with lots of downtime, right? And all through a pandemic, through so many different things. And um, she didn't always believe in herself. I had to push her forward to show her that I believed in her, to change that mindset. But they were able to do it, and
Yeah,
and
it's
these are the
amazing.
sorts of things that we all have to recognize are possible.
Yeah, totally. And it really, it's that belief in the possibility. I know that you're good friends with Amy Raup, and
Mhm.
we spoke. I really love the fact that she always starts out with the question, do you believe you can get pregnant? It's such a powerful question to ask, you
It
know?
is 100%, 100%.
Yeah.
Look, we don't ask ourselves these questions enough. I think we take these I think we take this process of having a child for granted. Like, okay, I get my period, I find a partner, we get married, we have kids, we have a family, we keep going, right? Like, it's just the cycle of life theoretically.
Right.
So we take them for granted because we just assume, but we don't ask ourselves these questions. Do I want a child? Do I believe I can have a child? Do I
Hmm.
trust in myself? Like, we don't spend the time to do that. And that's really, really important.
Absolutely. And one of the other things that I see a lot, and I'm sure you see a lot of it too, I see a lot of women coming in. I don't always see the partners. When I do see the partners, I get very excited. But sometimes women have done all the tests and they've gone like through years of testing when they come in. And I ask them if their partners have gotten tested, and they have not. And so it's really important to mention that it's 50-50. And it's really important for men to get tested. And so I wanted to have you come in and talk. It just kind of by nature, women get a lot more attention when it comes to
Sure.
fertility. And I realized I haven't really done a lot of discussions. I know you obviously treat everything, but I really wanted you to come on to talk about male fertility as well,
Sure.
and shed light on that, and just the common myth that only women have a biological clock.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack there. I chuckle at you saying that because I spoke to a couple yesterday, and I think it could have been possibly the first time in 17, 18 years that I had a couple show me their lab results, and the husband had more extensive and more detailed lab testing than the wife.
Oh, wow.
The first time. Usually that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're correct. Usually what happens is the woman comes in, or I do a lot of virtual work, and so we're talking via Zoom or video chat, and I'm looking through all these labs, and I often don't see enough testing, or sometimes even any testing on the male side of things. And so I think it's really, really important that everybody understands that the phrase "it takes two to tango" is there for a reason. I'm not saying that you can't make a baby alone. You can, in our day and age, but you still need sperm one way or another, right? And so we know that we need sperm and egg to make a child. And just because a woman carries the baby, and gets to nurse the baby and so forth, doesn't mean that the male side of this is any less responsible in the process. And so it's really unfortunate that that's the belief that's been put out there. But to give everybody some numbers and some understanding around this is that we can make it very, very simple and just say 50% of the time fertility issues are male factor. It's not quite that clear and straightforward. We could say 35 to 40% of the time it's female factor, and 35 to 40% of the time it's male factor. We can say that about 5 to 10% of the time it's both. And then we've got this unexplained portion as well that we just don't know.
Right.
Now, that alone should tell you that at the very least, we're talking about 40 to 45% of the time, there's a male factor. So it's almost 50%. So for ease of conversation, let's just say 50%. That means you have, if you're a male listening to this, you have as much responsibility in this process as your partner does. And just because they're the ones who carry the child doesn't necessarily mean that you're any less responsible. So what you do, how you live your life, all the things around that absolutely 100% impact the fertility process and the journey. And so when you ask that question about biological clock, it's absolutely true. Men, just like women, have a biological clock. Some might even argue that men, just like women, have a monthly clock. Right. That we're not the same every day of every week, of every month, of every year. And I just notice it with myself. I'm more emotional sometimes during the month. I'm more easily agitated certain times of the month. My libido is higher certain times of the month. Like, it's a normal process. The same with women, right? And so we have to understand that the same thing is true. We have a biological clock as men. Now, it's a little bit different, and we don't decline at the same speed as women in terms of fertility function. But certainly anything over 40, then we start to see a decline in fertility rates. And then with, pretty much every 5 to 10 years, depending on where you're at, but certainly we could say 50, 60, 65, those sorts of things. And I say those numbers because I have couples I'm working with partners that are those ages, right? Yeah. So, I don't want to dismiss that. Some might think, well, that's crazy, they're trying to have a child. Well, they are, and not my place to judge in any way, but that biological clock for men is going to play a role in this process. And so we have to do everything we can when we're younger to support our bodies and our sperm quality. And especially as we age, that can't be ignored either.
Yeah, totally. And it really does make a difference. You know, I had a teacher that always said, like, you're born the pre-heaven and post-heaven chi.
Hmm.
And Jing, really, I mean, so we can win the lottery with our parents, but we could throw that money away very quickly if we choose wrong, you know, lifestyle. And it can really, or we can come in a little more poor but really increase it with the right lifestyle. So we do, it's, you know, we do have a say, even though obviously we're born with luck too, you know. Yeah, I was gonna ask a question that kind of like left my mind because I was getting into what you said. We talked to, because I went into Jing, which is going to be the next conversation. But with this is what I was going to say. I was going to say that women can miscarry, and that miscarriage, because a woman goes through it and feels it, sometimes women will think it's because of them, but women can miscarry because of the DNA from the sperm.
100%. So this is a big thing that I always bring to couples' attention. They come in with miscarriage, and I ask, well, have you had the sperm tested? Well, like, no, I haven't had it tested because we were able to get pregnant, and so I know his sperm is fine. There's no reason to test it, which is not accurate.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell everybody 100%. If you've been trying for longer than 6 months and you have not had a semen analysis done for your husband, yourself, you know, whoever's listening, 100% that should be the next thing you get ordered. It's straightforward, it's easy, and it gives you a ton of really useful information. But on that note, that is male factor is a cause or can be a contributing factor. And I find that 50% of the time it is male factor for recurrent pregnancy loss that has been ignored.
Mm-hmm.
And we do see it in the DNA of the sperm. And so where you see that in a semen analysis is going to be first and foremost in morphology. Okay. And then beyond that, you're going to want to do what's called a DNA fragmentation test, which looks deeper at the morphology. And as the name implies, it looks at the DNA of the sperm. And so that's really, those are the key pieces that I find are the key indicators of a semen analysis for recurrent pregnancy loss. Now, a DNA fragmentation test is not a standard part of a semen analysis.
Right.
It is an additional test that needs to be ordered and often is not. And so those are the sorts of things that we do want to add on to that.
Right. And there's so many different, well, another thing is male prenatals.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that gets ignored.
Well, yeah, we all need to take care of our bodies. And there are different ways to do that. Certainly, vitamins are one way to do that. And you'll never see it referred to as a male prenatal
Right.
anywhere.
Yeah.
I don't think
I
that
call
would,
it that.
I don't think it would sell.
Yeah.
I don't think men would purchase it. But
Yeah, there's definitely something about that.
yeah, but we all need those micronutrients to support our normal body function and the health of the sperm. And so with that, there's absolutely vitamins and supplements that men need to be taking. That being said, I don't recommend like just a general multivitamin from CVS. I think that's not worth it, and you're going to be throwing your money away.
Yeah.
There are some key nutrients you want to be looking at those things when you're looking for a male prenatal, so to speak.
Yeah.
So those are really impactful and relatively straightforward and easy to do. It's not like men need a gazillion types of supplements. They could pretty much get that all taken care of in one or two products essentially for what they're looking for. So yeah, absolutely, that's important.
Yeah. And so I wanted to go back to the subject of Jing.
Okay.
So can you explain what Jing is, why it's important? Well, it's for both male and female.
Yeah.
But specifically for male.
So Jing is a Chinese medical term. When translated, it means essence. And when we think of essence, we think of this this, you know, think of it as the essence of gold. It's something that is really, really valuable for the body, that the body can use and transform for any function it needs in the body. And so that's why it's called essence, because it's an essential piece of what your body needs to perform properly. And so when we're talking about reproductive function, in essence, Jing is essential for proper and healthy sperm quality and count. Jing is going to be that piece. Part of it, as you mentioned, is like DNA or genetics that have been passed down from our parents, and that can be looked at as Jing. But also part of it is what we contribute to our Jing, right? Prenatal and postnatal Jing. And so that essence Jing, first, we're hoping that our parents and grandparents pass down some good genetics to us to supply us with what we need. And so when we see a family, a history of family who has, from generation to generation, an issue with, let's say, sperm count or sperm quality in different parameters, or difficulty with their fertility process from generation to generation, then you already inherently know that there's a Jing issue. There's something going on that genetically hasn't been passed down properly to them. But then there's also this part of Jing that we have 100% control over. It's how we live our life. It's what we do from day to day to take care of ourselves, to support and build more Jing, right? And so there's a lot of different ways we can do that. The first and most important, which is something I always talk about in terms of a foundational piece to health and fertility, is diet. Jing starts in the digestive system. Without a healthy, proper functioning digestive system, we can't develop and create more Jing, more essence, more nourishment for the body. So we have to make sure we're eating well, that we're staying away from the crap, all the junk food and sodas and fast food and so forth, right? We want to provide our body with, excuse me, with good fuel. It needs the proper fuel to do the bodily functions it needs. And then whatever's extra, it starts to replenish and create more Jing for itself. There are other ways we do that. Sleep. When we sleep, our body rejuvenates and rests, and so it's a time for our Jing to be restored. Exercise, supplementation, herbs, there's all sorts of different things that we can do to support the quality of the Jing in our body. But the one thing that we do need to recognize is this is not going to change very quickly. It's not something that's going to change overnight. This is a process. And this could be why, if we have a Jing deficiency, so to speak, and we need a lot more nourishment on the Jing side of things. Again, you mentioned it, but it's for both men and women. We're just talking about men right now. Then Jing doesn't replenish in a week or a month, or even 3 months potentially. It could take 6 months to a year or more with the proper lifestyle. So it takes a lot of determination and persistence and patience on a couple's part to really see those results and see the fruit of their labor, so to speak.
Yeah, for sure. I was going to mention, I mean, you kind of went over it. What are some things that men can do to boost their sperm health? I know diet's a huge one that you mentioned, or what should they not do? Because there's some things that people are doing that are not helping.
Men tend to burn the candle pretty hard. They tend to push themselves, and everyone's going to push themselves differently. Like some might do it physically, whether it's physical labor or exercise, excessive exercise. You have to think of this in this way. Your body wants to be nourished, and the more you do things that dry it out, the more you are depleting yourself of Jing and essence. So just to keep it simple, like if you have to ask yourself that question, like, should I sit in the hot tub for an hour? Think about the repercussions. Well, when I get out, I'm gonna be really hot and I need a lot more water, and I'm really like that sort of thing is a no-no.
Yeah.
Right. That just answers, you're depleting yourself. Should I go and do a hour and a half Bikram yoga session where the temperature is 120 degrees? Sweating a ton, depleting myself of fluids constantly. When I leave, I feel exhausted and I need a ton of water. Probably not the best thing. Now, are those things that you can do periodically? Yeah, probably you can do them periodically, but they're not things that you should be doing ongoingly and regularly. The same thing is for anything else. Smoking dries out the body. It depletes our body of nourishment and jing in a different way. Probably not the best thing, although we also know that it does a lot of other negative effects, right?
Yeah.
So there's a series of things, and that's really the way that I look at it. Alcohol, is a little bit of alcohol okay? Sure, everything in moderation, as my parents always used to tell me. But doing anything too much sends things over the edge, right? Look, a topic that most men don't want to talk about or deal with, masturbation. Right? Do we know that men masturbate? 100%.
Right.
They all do.
Yeah.
Right? So that's no lie. But we have seen that those men who masturbate very frequently are depleting themselves of their essence, of their jing. They're thinking like, how often are you going to ejaculate and release sperm? Like, yes, does it regenerate every 24 hours? Yes, but at some point it can't keep catching up.
Right.
Right? And so you're depleting yourself. So, masturbation, moderation makes sense, but all the time, every day, multiple times a day, not okay. Right? And these are things like, I'm not making it up. These are things that 100% I've heard and been told regularly. So, it's the same thing, by the way, with having intercourse too much, right? Because the man's releasing their jing, sperm is considered jing, too often. So we want to be mindful of that as well. Most men should be able to have intercourse every day, but it's also not necessary. Every other day is just fine. But multiple times in a day, like maybe when you're 20, not when you're 40.
Excess jing.
Right?
Yeah.
So, it goes to the same sort of point, right? And so I think we need to be mindful of all of the ways that we potentially deplete ourselves. But here's the key. You do something and you feel drained and exhausted, you've done too much.
Yeah,
You've depleted yourself.
Exactly.
So just think back, okay, I've got to do less next time. That same sort of thing.
Yeah, and it just really goes to the point that the body does not lie. I mean, we were designed this way to listen to our bodies way before labs or consultants or, our bodies really are there to tell us. And if we pay attention, it's very, very logical. It just tells you what it needs.
Yep, absolutely, 100%.
So I had another question. I should write it down. We were just talking about, another thing. Yeah, this is another thing that I see often, as I'm sure you do, which is men putting their cell phones in their front pockets.
Oh yeah.
It's a
no.
Big no-no. Yeah.
Big no. So, I always, anytime I go anywhere, my cell phone comes out of my pocket and gets put down on a table wherever it doesn't live on me. The only time it's on me is from when I'm going from one place to another. And so is the front pocket better than the back pocket or vice versa? I tend to think that the back pocket's better than the front pocket. If you've got like a little leg pocket on your pant leg, that's probably best. But in general, that should just be a mode of transportation from one location to another. It should not be a place where that it lives all the time. And so I really encourage the EMFs that come off of this can affect sperm quality. We've seen there's research to show it, not to mention the heat coming off of it as well, does it as well. So, these are all things that we need to be mindful of when we're dealing with cell phones, computers on your lap. It's called a laptop for a reason. That's right. But it shouldn't live on your lap. No. And there's a lot of different devices you can get to protect you. There are cell phone cases. They don't make one for my phone or else I'd have it. But there are cell phone cases that have a shield on it. And that side with the shield, because it doesn't have a shield on both sides. The side with the shield is the side that goes towards your body so that the waves go away from your body, right? Same thing with laptops. They have these protective shields that you put on your lap, and then the laptop goes on top to protect yourself of those things. And so 100% we need to adjust the way we're living based on the new technology around us, and that's going to be ever changing moving forward.
Yeah, it's something that I think a lot of people don't realize. I mean, this is part of life, and it's something that we can't completely avoid. But I've seen things that drive me crazy. I've seen women that are pregnant putting it on their stomach. I'm like, things like people should not have it on their bodies, period. If they can't, obviously in transportation, like you said.
Yeah, women often put it in their breast, like in their bra, and they're walking around with it. Like, that's the last place I want that for a female. That tissue is so sensitive.
Totally.
And so volatile, it's really the last place. So it doesn't need to be on your body unless you're going someplace. And for women, you often have a purse, put it in your purse.
Yeah, totally. Such good information. Really enjoyed this conversation. I knew I was going to enjoy talking to you. Really glad we met. And kind of cool that we know each other. So, we know each other's family. So if you ever come by, you'll definitely have to let me know. And
make it back to Miami, I'd be happy to.
Are you ever making it back to Miami? I mean, it's so nice where you are. The weather, well, now especially, I know everything's getting a hiatus.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. More so, I usually go once a year, but right now it's challenging.
Yeah, I have a brother in San Francisco, close to San Francisco, so I know. I mean, I haven't been able to see my nephews in a while, so it's kind of a tough thing. But hopefully, this will pass, as everything else does. So if people are interested in speaking with you, I know you do virtual calls, you have a lot of programs out there. Can you share your programs, what you offer, and how people can contact you?
Sure. Yeah. So I do a lot of virtual work and coaching with couples from all over the world. So if you are outside of Southern California and San Diego, then the best way to reach me is to go to marcsklar.com. You can also follow me on Facebook, on Instagram as the Fertility Expert, and on YouTube at Fertility TV. If you're local to San Diego and want support from me and my team, then you can reach us at reproductivewellness.com.
Awesome. Marc, it was such a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and we will be talking soon.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Michelle. It was a pleasure.